Well, hello again. This video is really just about um, where I'm from here in New York. I just thought I'd record while I'm just doing some chores in the barn. Uh, so New York, I don't know what people think, but I haven't had too many questions on YouTube about New York from anybody, and I don't know what anybody that watches my YouTube videos thinks. But I live in upstate New York, and New York State is very diversified. Most people, this is why I'm saying this, if you ask most people in the rest of the country, or I don't know about Canada too much, but they think New York, and all they think of is New York City, and I get it. New York is known for New York City. You know, it's the largest city in the world, I think. It's very populated. I think we have about 19 million people in the state of New York, and half of the population is in the city. And I'm not just talking about the city of New York. There's boroughs, the Bronx, Yonkers, Queens, and I think there's one more. I forget it, but it encompasses all that area, and there's a lot of people down there. But if you think about the size of New York, it is about in the middle. If you take all 50 states, it is ranked number 27th in size. And it's larger than, like, the Carolinas, Louisiana. It's ranked in the middle of all the states. It's a pretty large state. So and after you leave the city, if you go north, it starts to get really beautiful up through there in the Hudson Valley area. You go past the Catskill Mountain Range, and your borders Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, and it goes all the way to Canada. The Hudson River goes all the way up through the St. Lawrence Seaway into Canada, and then up that way, all the way up towards Canada, is the Adirondack Mountain Range. I don't know how many millions of acres that is. And then you think about the rest of New York. It's actually larger in area than Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania borders Ohio out there, and there's a little stretch that goes up into Erie. But if you think about it, all the way from the Atlantic Ocean down by the city, New York goes all the way out, and almost, if it wasn't for that little stretch into Erie, New York would be bordering Ohio. So it's a large state. People just don't think about it that way. It's very large. It produces $5.4 billion in agriculture in as far as the United States goes. And it ranks 10th in the most productive in agriculture in the world. So you think about that. New York State ranking 10th in the amount of produce and milk it produces in the world. I don't think people really think about it that way, because all you hear about, this is why I'm doing this video, because people, every time I talk about New York, they're always thinking, I had actually my daughter's ex-mother-in-law. She came up to visit one time, and she lives in Louisiana, and she thought when she was going to land up here in upstate New York, all she'd see was buildings. And it's like, I thought, wow. And when she got here, she was amazed. She said, I cannot believe this state. She made me stop. Oh, that's Raven. I didn't know she walked over to the camera. It's funny. she thought she couldn't. She made me stop, because she said that she couldn't believe how many deer are out, in the fields that we were driving along. And I lived in Louisiana. There's not, the deer population. I mean, the deer up here are a lot larger too in size. And it's like, yeah, they're in the way most of the time. There's so many. There's a lot of wildlife here. A lot of wildlife. Well, anyway, the state borders Canada. It borders Pennsylvania. It borders Connecticut. It has a maritime border with Rhode Island, Massachusetts. It borders Massachusetts and Vermont, like I said. Where I live in the Finger Lakes region, which is central New York, they call it. It is one of the most populous part of the state for agriculture and dairy farm production. There's, ever since I lived up this way, it's such a rich land for growing crops and hay, and this is why the dairy farms are here. It really is a really nice state. I mean, the taxes. The reason that everybody says New York State taxes, is because of the. It is because of this. The city of New York. That's really what it is. It's because there's so many people down there, and they have to have money for all this and money for that, and it's pretty crazy. So basically, that's why the taxes are high, is for that state, for the New York City area. And people that live upstate have always said, "Hey, geez, make that part like Washington D.C. is just its own little thing. We'd love to have that happen, but that'll never happen because New York City needs upstate New York for all the water and everything." New York State has about 7 million acres of farmland, and about 36,000 family farms in New York State. And it produces some of the world's best food. It's if you go to Wikipedia or go into any New York State website, it'll tell you, and that we really produce a lot of produce, onions, apples. There's a lot of apple orchards up in the upstate New York, and a lot of produce comes out of New York. So. It is actually, as I'm reading, I'm looking things up so I'm trying to be accurate. It is the second largest apple producer in the country, in states. And snap beans, maple syrup, third largest in cabbage producer. Grapes, dairy. It's pretty cool. I'm not putting down any other state. I trucked almost every part of the country. I've done my trucking, and I'm not. Every state is beautiful. I'm not saying that at all. I think every state has its beauty. I just talking about New York because people really misunderstand New York. And what it really is, what it produces, and because everybody's eyes, it's just New York City, and and a lot of people go visit New York City, and they never bother coming upstate, because it's rural, it's very rural, I mean, people do that understand New York. They come up here. They'll actually come up here into where I live in the area because of the Finger Lakes. There's 7 Finger Lakes. The more popular Finger Lakes are Skinny Atlas Lake, Cayuga, Seneca. There's Otisco and what's the other one? I forget now. I forgot. Well, anyway, I should know, but I don't. I'm sorry, but there are 7 Finger Lakes. Canandaigua Lake is one of them. I live between Otisco and Skinny Atlas Lake, and they're very beautiful. And people come up here a lot in the summertime, and just, you know, this is why I talked about one earlier time when Skinny Atlas. It's a mess with traffic because people just, I don't know, it just became that town where, you know, money goes and everybody has to go see Skinny Atlas. I don't know why. It's a mess in the summertime as far as traffic goes. It's crazy. But again, you know, a lot of camps along the lakes, so this is why I have my vegetable stand here, because people travel along the road I live on, and they're just driving through, and there I am. So, you know, I'm just wanting people to understand New York a little bit, what it is. It is a very big agricultural state, quite large, and if you look at mass of land, it's not just that city. New York State is, like I said, is very diversified because of that city. You know, we have that city that never sleeps, they say, you know, and a lot of things go on down there that I don't care about. I've been to the city many times. Well, not many times, but quite a few. I know what it's all about. I don't like the traffic. It's a mess. But if you're visiting, you know, and you want to see, it's pretty cool, especially at night when if you're traveling around, all the lights, and it's amazing actually. But as far as what I do, and you know, the farmland, I live up here, and it's a lot different. It's nothing like what most people think. I appreciate where I live. I really do. I was just talking to a lady that's trying to sell me milking machines for goats, and she lives in Tennessee. And then I asked her a couple questions about it. She goes, "Well, I know it's cold up there." She doesn't know anything about New York either. So I said, "Well, I live in it's a lot of agriculture where I'm in." And she goes, "Really?" And I mean, yeah, there's a lot of dairy. There's a lot of apples. There's a lot of everything up here. And I tell people to come visit up this way. You'll see what it's all about. It's a very, very beautiful state. You want to basically everything you want to see. It has most everything you can think about. You know, it has huge waterfalls, and not just Niagara Falls, but in Ithaca, New York, there's the Taganic Falls. The thing is 180 feet falls. It's really amazing to look at this falls. I think Niagara is only, I don't know. I'm not going to say it, but it's not 180 feet. This falls in Taganic is beautiful. It's not as large, nowhere close, but it's really neat. You know that any turn you take in New York is pretty amazing. The rivers. I lived in the southern tier for a while, down in the Sydney, New York area, Oneonta, Binghamton, and there's rivers that go and I used to kayak down through there. It's pretty cool. Although those rivers can be very devastating. When I lived in Sydney, I know my house and everything went back in 2007, and it just flooded. It flooded the whole town. It ruined the town, ruined my house. So it can be that way too, you know. But I encourage people to come up here and look around because it's a really nice, beautiful state. I have, like I said, I think every state has its own beauty. And a lot of people move south because it's warmer down there, and I get that too. Here we are in April what, 17th I think it is, or something of that sort. And we had snow this morning. So really, it's been a long, long winter, and a lot of people just don't like it. So the population of upstate New York actually has decreased, which is a sad thing a little bit, but not so much for me. People can go, that's fine. I think the census said it had dropped quite a few thousands of people, and it's just for that reason. People are, they don't want to spend their time in 6 months of cold weather, I guess. But I don't think about Canadian people. What? It's like, well, everybody's moving out of there too? I don't think so. I don't know. And again, I said that people don't like the taxes here, and that's another reason I think people move out of New York, is because we have that stupid large city down there, and they pull a lot of money, and they need a lot of money just to run the. I don't know what they need. I think it's a lot of corruption, to be honest with you. They're just built. I don't know if it's done yet. They were, with the Tappan Zee bridges. They were building a new one a few years ago. We started it, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. Probably pretty close to being complete. That probably took a few $1 billion, I'm sure. But then you think about the tolls they charge going across those bridges. You got to pay a toll on every bridge there is. From the George Washington to the Tap. The Throgs Neck, they all charge you every time you go across it, and it ain't cheap either. So what are they doing with all that money? Is it just for maintenance? You see people painting them once in a while, but good God, there's lots of potholes. Well, take my tolls and put it into that. I want to tell them, but no, I don't know. But again, it's amazing to see the amount of buildings and everything down there. If you're running down through there, you're like, whoa, it's huge. It's just nothing but a city of buildings and people everywhere. And then there's Long Island. I don't know. It's I don't think much of Long Island. It's just to me, and it's just an extension of New York City because it's right there, and it's a big island. It's not little by any means. It's huge, but that's where all the rich folks live, I guess. I don't know. If you're watching the video while I'm talking, you can see this is what I like. So this is part of New York that people down there don't ever want to live in, or they wouldn't even know what to do. In fact, some of those people probably never even leave the city ever in their lives, and see anything other than what that is, because the city provides everything for you. You walk out your door and you can get whatever you want anywhere, anytime. So I guess I don't know. I'm not that. I could care less about that. You see me. Farm living is the life for me. It looks like that, right? While I'm pitching hay down the steps. And that's that old junk hay. I'm using that now. And they eat it. It's actually got some green in it. You can't really tell in the camera too much, but they do eat it. And the rest that they don't eat, I throw in their pens for bedding. And if you saw in some of that film, you'll see some of the newer, greener bales of hay I have. And they eat that now. And up here in that part of the barn is where the floor's got to be all rebuilt, and we can redo all that so we can put about, I don't know, about 30 tons of hay go up there, I guess. We'll throw that up there. That door behind me there, that'll open, and the one further to the right. Those are two big doors that open, and my trailer's back there. They'll all be full of hay, but those floor, we're going to cover the floors differently than they are now. And this doorway, this stairway will be it'll be all covered, and there'll be a door there so the cold air doesn't come down to where the goats are. There's that other hay. But we're going to be buying some new alpine goats here soon, and the herd's going to increase. So, this film actually, when I was doing chores, actually was almost an hour long. So I edited most of it out. By the way, I just, I didn't want to talk. There's not that much to talk about in New York, right? But I encourage people to look around here in New York. And if you don't know New York, just look on Wikipedia. It'll tell you all about it. But I do get lots of questions from just people that I know in Louisiana and everything. They think the same thing. It's all buildings and concrete. It's nothing like that. It is in the city of New York, sure. That's just part of New York. It's a huge part of New York because this is what anybody in the world thinks of. They think of New York, and that's all they think of. They never even bother to check out what the rest of the state's all about and how big it really is. It is, like I said, it's about in the middle. Take all 50 states, about in the middle of as far as square mileage or its actual size of the state. It's about right in the middle of all the states. The out west is mostly the ones that are larger than New York, and not California, and Montana and Alaska, obviously they're huge, Texas. But after that, they're pretty close, and then New York, like I said, is like 54, almost 55, 1,000 square miles or something of that sort, and most of the states a little bit above it are in the 60s, and then the rest are out below New York. Like they're all, you would think that they're larger, but they're not. Just look it up. That's all you got to do. It's a big state. So actually, we are going to move that where I'm standing there. That I was talking about that door, or did I mention it? I don't know if I did or not. That's going to be an actual door, so I can back in there. So it's going to be pretty cool for the barn. So I hope you enjoyed my little conversation. You probably didn't enjoy it, but it's a little bit of knowledge for anybody about New York State. It's not going to really help because most of the questions I get are from people that I talk to personally. New York, what's it like living with all those people? I'm like, I don't live around with all the people. I live with goats. What? Really, like I said, people just don't understand New York. They really don't. They think it's just New York City, and I get it. It's very well known. It is one of the, I think, the largest city in the world. I think, I don't know. Maybe China has a bigger city now. I'm not sure. But it is, New York is what it is. I just, I would appreciate, people, had questions about it. Just look it up. You'd be amazed at really what it's all about. How diverse New York is. The water we have. It's one of the best states that has. We have abundance of water because we're surrounded by it. The ocean. These lakes. 2 Great Lakes. Seaways, rivers, mountain ranges, farms, and big cities. It is. It's just one of those. That's the state. You know. I don't know. The only bad thing is two bad things, and that's taxes and being known just for New York City. You know. Other than that, you know, I guess just being left alone would be cool, man. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. A little history. It's not even history. It's just some facts about New York. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I'll let you just watch the rest of this, and I'll catch up with you guys soon. Adios.